And I look back at the hand, I'm like, this motherfucker, was he trying to check raise me all in on the turn? He turned. Particular hand was after the Lodge live stream. So I played on the Lodge live stream on Saturday, and then I played for about an hour afterwards. Now, I think the villain was somewhat of a regular. I remember playing with him a little bit, maybe like way back when, but I don't think he was necessarily like good. And he didn't play on the stream, but he starts with about 1,500. So we're playing 1,500 effective, and we're 7-handed. So I open 7 of clubs, 8 of clubs from +1 and it's 5, and we are playing 5, 5, 5, 10. So 5, 5, 10. Again, if you're listening to this, Crush Live Poker subscribers, you'll hear this on the podcast because I've already recorded it. So I open to 35, and V1 in the small blind, 3 bets to 110. Everybody folds, I call. Pretty standard stuff. So the pot's like maybe 225 or something like that. I've got 7, 8 of clubs. And the flop comes out Queen of clubs, 8 of spades, 4 of hearts. So obviously I've got 7, 8 of clubs. So I have middle pair, backdoor flush draw, obviously, right? He c-bets the same size that he 3-bet. So he c-bets 110 and I call. Pretty easy stuff, right? So now it's like 425. Interesting turn. Turn is the 10 of clubs. So it's Queen of clubs, 8 of spades, 4 of hearts, 10 of clubs. So I pick up the backdoor club draw. And he now checks here on the turn. So he checks on the turn, and I'm thinking to myself, and I went into this, I described this on the podcast. I was like, well, if I didn't have a pair here, if I had a hand like 7, 9 of clubs, or 6, 7 is actually a big hand here, 6, 7 of clubs, which would have been a gut shot on the flop, which is now a turn double gutter, which some people will miss. It was a double gutter to a 9 and a 5. If I wasn't paired here, obviously I would want to take a little bit of the fold equity. But I do have a pair of 8s here. If he's unpaired, I have a rather large sort of hammer lock on this hand. And then I was thinking, I'm like, how does this 10 interact with his 3-betting range? And what I mean by this is that if you put yourself in your opponent's shoes, are you checking one pair here on the turn when it's Queen 8, 4, 10 in this configuration? What does the 10 do? I didn't think that he would. Well, I think it's pretty close, because here's the case for actually checking it back on the turn some of the time too, is that you will get into situations where people will be checking this turn card a lot. It doesn't necessarily mean they don't have anything. They're just checking, say, like one pair here. I think it's kind of close. I mean, it brings a little bit. I don't know how much checking I would be doing here with like aces or kings, or, ace queen or something like this in this 3-bet type of thing. So, you could obviously make a case that I could bet here very small on the turn just for a little bit of protection or whatever. But I am paired, so I decided to check it back. So it goes check. So we're still at 425, right? With river, and the river pairs the board and brings in the backdoor flush. So Queen of clubs, 8 of spades, 4 of hearts, 10 of clubs, 4 of clubs, right? I've got 7, 8 of clubs here. And now, small blind bets. What was it? Was it 350? Let me look back at my notes here. He bets 325. Small blind bets 325. He has 1,000 left in his stack. So if I decide to jam here, it would be 1,300. So he bets 325 into 425, and he checked the turn, and now he's making a huge bet here at the end. What do we do here? The board's paired. So obviously, if like he had a full house or something like that, he would have to make the assumption though that, or we would have to make the assumption though that he would be checking the turn. Now, if he had queen queen here and he bet the flop and I called, maybe there's a partial that he might be checking that on the turn to sort of give me kind of the green light to maybe throw in, some sort of float bluff, and he was just going to sort of go with it here. I think it's interesting to note, similar to my video that I put up on YouTube, the distribution of the suits, the rainbow suits here on the flop, and the fact that the queen is a club, right? So we can't have like queen X of clubs or something like that, obviously. But then I was looking at this and I'm like, well, am I scared of higher flushes here ever? Should I be? I'm going to look to the callers here. Should I ever really be scared of higher flushes here? Wouldn't like ace king of clubs, ace jack of clubs, like nut flush draws, which are most likely going to be combos in this configuration, bet the turn? Ace jack of clubs, ace king of clubs, ace nine of clubs. I mean, that's really light, right? King jack of clubs, something like that. Wouldn't they all bet? Shouldn't they all sort of bet the turn? So, and then, so you take a step back and you're like, yeah, well, but Bart, is this guy is he going to like check this turn with like a one pair type of hand and then bet the river for this sizing with like aces or kings? Like, is this the type of player he's going to check this turn, goes check, check, and then he's going to try to make up for the value here at the end with the four, when the backdoor comes in? If I were to call, this is how I always do my math in my head, right? If I were to call 750 plus 325, the pot would be 1075. So I basically have a pot size bet left. Like if I jam here, he's going to get 2-1. We're not in a reverse pot odds type of situation like we talked about before. So I thought that this one was really, really close. Really, really close. What do people in the live chat have to say here? What do they say? This is a different from the last Bart. This is an easier shove now. Go Birds 90. Well, I'm not going to give it away yet. Let's see. Anybody else? What will we do here? Is this an easier? This is a bonus, guys. You don't usually get this from me. I just thought that it fit in kind of to the last hand. I do agree that the guy last hand overplayed the hand. I don't think that I would have jammed. If I had played it like he did, I would not have jammed. Ace king there, I think that was overly optimistic. But this is interesting, though, that the board pairs. Like, if the river is like a non-board pair, like a 3 or a deuce of clubs, I think it's an even easier jam, right? It's an even easier jam. Magical 55 says, what's he calling with? Is that a troll? I don't know. I mean, I do know what he's calling with. I don't think that he's folding out. I don't think he's bet folding over pairs. Call. I'm jamming this all day. Most people are getting on it looks like it's maybe 70% calls, 30% jams. I hope that we all agree, though, that if the board didn't pair here and it's like the deuce of clubs, that this is a jam, right? How can we not jam if the river is like the deuce or the 3 of clubs? It has to be a jam, right? I mean, this is just, I think it complicates things a little bit because the board pairs. So, anyways, Mark Fabro says, your value owning your ass off here if you jam. Can't jam. Call. I jammed. So I jammed. Here are jams. Guy tanks, kind of like the last caller. Tanks for over a minute, which is a long time. So I'm like, fuck. Awesome. Got the best hand here. This is great. Finally, he side calls. Side call. I roll over my hand, thinking it's good. Small blind rolls over. King, Jack of clubs. King, Jack of clubs. And I look back at the hand, I'm like, this motherfucker, was he trying to check raise me all in on the turn? He turned a royal. He turned a royal and checked. I mean, I guess he must have been trying to go for some sort of check raise on the turn. So I value owned myself on the river. Now, again, going back to the whole like math of this, yes, if I can't get called by worse, then it's just a call. I mean, the river math is different, right? I have to get called by worse because you're laying, I mean, it's just 50-50, right? It's like when you make the extra bet on the river, it's as if the pot has nothing in it. What I mean by that is that we can call and realize the pot equity, but the extra money that we put in for a raise, we're not getting any price on that. It's all 1-to-1. It's like there's 0 in the pot, and I'm betting 200 to win 0, meaning that like you would be calling 200 to win 200 as my opponent 1-to-1 on the river raise, but me, I'm just raising to 200 to win 0. It's not a bluff. I'm talking about for value, and that's why I have to get called by a hand that I beat more than 50% of the time. So I don't know. That one's might be a little bit thin, but I hope that we can all agree that if the board doesn't pair, this has to be a